This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A lot of questions to get into today, so let's just jump into it. First question of the day is from Wilson Damian 0, who says, Q, do you think the Browns will be extending Cooper? For a while now, Browns fans have been speaking as if him leaving after this year is guaranteed. But now Mary Kay Cabot seems to be saying that the Browns plan to extend him sooner rather than later. If true, I'm happy but surprised because I thought them signing Jeudy to an extension meant they envisioned him as a #1 receiver. Nah, I wouldn't say that about that Jeudy extension. I think a lot of people, like, just because a wide receiver gets a new contract does not mean that contract is for a #1 wide receiver. Jeudy signed a contract that basically, when you boil it all down, is worth about $17 million a year. That is not #1 wide receiver money. That is outside the top 30 of wide receiver money. That is #2 wide receiver money. That's what Gabe Davis gets. That's what a solid, like, Odell Beckham got 16. DeAndre Hopkins got like 17. Like, not guys you would expect to be #1s at this point in their career, or guys who you just don't expect to be #1 receivers at this point. So if Jeudy does work out and he plays like a 1, well, you're getting like tremendous value on that contract, because #1 wide receivers are going from anywhere to 22 to 31, $32 million. Like, once Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all of these guys hit the market, that's what that money is going to be. So 17 mil a year is not #1 wide receiver money, so they do have room to slide in more. I think it's going to come down to the number with Coop. If they can get Coop to take, a team-friendly 20 mil a year for a couple of years, I think they would do it. The question is if Amari Cooper wants to do it, and I don't know if Amari Cooper wants to do it at this point. Like, you just saw Calvin Ridley at his same age. Calvin Ridley just signed a deal that basically puts his base salary at $22.5 million to 20 at Amari Cooper's same age. Now, obviously not the same body of work that Amari Cooper has put in, but the same age. So you would have to imagine that if the Browns are at 22, Coop's probably at 25, 26. I don't know if a deal gets done at 25, 26. Maybe the Browns would be more willing to throw cash at it instead of, when I say cash, let me clarify. When I say be more willing to throw cash at it, means be more willing to guarantee more of the contract for Amari Cooper at a lower base number. So Amari might not have the same base salary as Calvin Ridley, right? He might get 19, he might get 21 or something like that, when Calvin is going to have 22.4 in 2025. But they would guarantee it so that it's more cash pretty much up front, because when you guarantee it, you can restructure, you could throw that money up in front. Like, it's just more money immediately for Coop. And it could be a bigger signing bonus as an incentive to sign. So maybe that's how they try to finagle this deal. I'm interested to see where Amari Cooper's people are and where the Browns are. Amari Cooper is a businessman, and I think he is real about that. He's never been like a liar about that or try to act like he's not a businessman first. So he's going to take the most money that he can get, or whatever makes the most sense financially for him. And, we'll see. We'll see. I'm skeptical to see if the Browns and Coop can come to a deal. But if they're both willing to get a little creative, then I think something can happen that would make both sides happy. And if we're talking about a deal that takes Coop into like 2027, I'm fine with that because I think Coop's play style and his skill set is one that would age well into his 30s. I don't think he's going to immediately fall off or anything like that. So I wouldn't be upset with it. And the Browns don't want to be at a situation where they have a good year, they compete, but then Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore become free agents, and now they're not returning the same quality of wide receiver room, and it basically feels like they just missed their window. They're really looking at this year and next year as their big go-for-it windows. And if that's the case, then it makes sense to want Coop around. It's just, will the numbers make sense to have Coop around? Because Coop's already at the numbers that I'm thinking that the Browns want to keep him at. And I just don't see how that turns into an extension. But again, both sides have to be willing to get a little creative here. In order to make something that makes sense for both of them, in my opinion. Now, let's move on to the next question. Dooms Day Prophet says, what value, if any, would you put on bringing in Tyler Huntley just for intel into the division rivals QB room? I agree with your assessment that he's more of a camp arm, more than just a camp arm. But since he's getting the vet minimum, let's say he's expendable. Does he add anything to the way the Browns scheme against the Ravens, or will their offense be different enough from last year that his input would not matter? I don't think this is how the Browns go about scouting rival teams. I don't think this is how a serious football team goes about scouting rival teams. Look, what the Ravens do is not a secret. The Browns have the same access to all 22 tape that we do. It's not a secret. It's not difficult to reverse engineer, and it's not difficult to figure out what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it. Football on paper is not a difficult game to figure out. The issue with football is that you have to physically do the things to stop the Ravens. And that's where they're hard to stop because they have a guy in Lamar Jackson who's very difficult to tackle. So I don't think that's the case. Long story short, I don't think an NFL team seriously ever brings in another player for intel. Like, they might do it as a little bit of a joke. You might get some coaches who are tryhards who try to make it seem like they're trying to get all that intel. But the majority of the intel you get on a division rival is when you play them 2 times a year and you look at the tape and you remember what you did that did or did not work on them. And then you look at the tape that they have right now. That's how you get intel on Baltimore. You don't get intel by asking Tyler Huntley for secrets. Like, it ain't like Baltimore got nuclear codes that Tyler Huntley just gonna tell you. Like, that's not how that works at all. So no, I doubt it. I highly doubt it. And maybe like if we're talking about more juvenile things, like, oh, well, we could still sign, there's still codes. It's not really a thing in the NFL. They got the huddle, they got the radio. Like, it's just not really a thing in the NFL. I think Tyler Huntley's here because he's a pretty good backup. He's a great athlete, and he's somebody who they feel like can compete to get a roster spot on this team at the quarterback position. So I think that's why he's here. Cool Guy Zone says, hey Q, going into the draft, what do you think the Browns' top 3 needs are and why? Mine's are linebacker, wide receiver, D lineman. I think you want to walk out this draft with 3 things. Tackle that you like, a wide receiver or running back that you like, and a guard that you like, right? Like you want to walk out with at least 3 of those out of the 4 that I mentioned. If you get those, I think you'll feel pretty good about this draft. If you don't, you'll have some questions, but that doesn't mean that the draft's bad off rip. But I think that's what I would look into. I'm the Browns. I'm like, hey, I want to make sure I walk out this draft with feeling better about those 3 spots specifically. All right. We got Alexander who says, what do you think the odds are of the NFL moving to an 18-game season sometime soon, 5 years or so? And if they do move to an 18-game season, do you think the team should be given a second bye week to accommodate player fatigue and injury? I mean, yeah, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do that. The NFL can expand this season as long as they want. There's a fine balance that you work because you don't want to make the regular season too long, right? I think the beauty of the NFL is that the regular season is short. And the reason I think that's something that works in their favor, the lack of games that they play, is that it makes every game feel important because every game is a significant percentage of your team's outcome. It matters. Now, if you look at other sports that are having issues with people caring about the regular season, and you look at basketball and you look at baseball. And in baseball, for me, when I was watching baseball, it was very hard for me to care if you lost 3 straight. In basketball, like you care if you lose like 5 in a row. But 2 in a row, I mean, you come back from that pretty easy, right? And it goes the same way with win streaks, right? If you go on a crazy win streak, it don't really it's just too long for you to get invested in every game. I think with the 18-game season, you can still retain that. But I think more than just a second bye week needs to happen if they're going to do that. I think you need to expand the rosters. If you're going to do a 18-game season, I think you need to make significant improvements to play surfaces. So move towards natural grass for all stadiums. If you're going to be playing even more football to the point to where you have to take a second bye week. And things like playoff conditions, right? That's going to start to matter. The deeper into January/February that you're playing in, the more adverse those conditions are. Like the weather in February and early March sucks so much that even spring football leagues try to avoid it now, right? Like we saw the XFL try to play in February and they ran into all kind of problems the last couple of years with weather, even in good weather places, because weather just sucks in February and March. And while there is some weather that does feel like football weather, like when it's snowing, that's great. It feels like football. But I'm going to be honest with you. Don't nobody like watching a rain game. Like rain games are pretty bad for business. Or like extremely cold games that don't have snow. And that's what you're more likely to run up against in like February or early March. So I think you have to consider that too. If you're going to move the season longer, like what kind of environments are you going to be playing in more consistently? And will that make the quality of football significantly worse? There's a lot of things they got to consider, not just the extra game, not just the second bye week, but yeah, I think a lot of things have to happen in order to do that safely, in order to do it not just safely, but successfully. The next question is from Darth, who says, you think we should focus more on O-line in this draft and just sign another linebacker or reverse? I think offensive line is more of a consideration in this draft class than linebacker. So, yes. Joe Graham says, is there any concern that fans could drive players out of Cleveland? It seems that when good things happen, people are just never happy. I would say this. I don't think it's Cleveland. Right? I don't think it's just Cleveland. I think when we talk about this, since we interact with Cleveland a lot, it feels like it's just Cleveland. But the type of stuff that you see is not a result of people in Cleveland feeling one way. It's a result of social media algorithms favoring more salacious content, because they know that salacious content, which is often negative or pessimistic or stupid, will get more impressions and reaction. And if you're into Cleveland sports, the algorithm is going to push you the Cleveland version of that. right? They're going to push you the Cleveland version of things that will make you upset, or things that will make you want to respond, or things that you want that make you feel like these people ain't never happy to see a team succeed. Because at the end of the day, what a social media company wants you to do is to react to shit so they can put ads underneath it so they can make some money on the back end. And when it comes to even sites like Twitter, like, they barely even pay the people who put the shit up there. So that's what it's about, right? Is saying stuff to get a reaction and putting that stuff that gets a reaction in front of your face. And that is a social media issue. That is a national issue. If you look at literally any Twitter space, whether you're into politics, whether you're into a different city sports, whether you're into different sports, whether you're into pickleball, whether you're into F1 racing, this stuff's going to pop up, because what Twitter wants you to do, what Facebook wants you to do, is stay on Facebook and Twitter and be mad about the stuff that you're seeing on Facebook or Twitter because you're reacting to it. And that's going to be the stuff that gets the most play. So I don't think it's Cleveland. I don't think the people in Cleveland are miserable and they're going to drive people out the city. I don't think that's the case, because whenever you hear these players talk about who they're interacting with in real life, when there's not an algorithm dictating who you run into, they seem to enjoy those experiences. They say, hey, people love it here. They're super positive. They're super nice. I'll put it like this. When I go on my comment section or I tweet something, every time I tweet something, every time I go in my comment section, there's like 4 or 5 people at a given video or a given tweet that basically want to say something negative about me. I've never met somebody in person when I've been in Cleveland that watches my videos that was an asshole. But I meet all kind of assholes on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, they're purposely putting you in front of the assholes because the assholes make you react. I hope this makes sense. But just remember, when you're online, they're giving you a disproportionate amount of assholes in front of you than what you would see if you were in real life. Like, people aren't jerks like that in real life, but on the internet, you get a disproportion of it because that's what the algorithm wants for you to see, is jerks. Because you respond to jerks. You want to take that jerk down. You want to comment, but that's basically my theory on it. I don't think it's about the city of Cleveland at all. I've heard a lot of people have a lot of positive interactions when it comes to athletes in the city of Cleveland. You look at all the guys on the Browns that have chosen to stay here and hope to stay here for the rest of their career. I mean, the city of Cleveland is not a negative. Like, it might not be a positive when it comes to bringing in free agents because of our nationwide reputation, but when people get here, it's not hard to retain them. So I don't think the city of Cleveland has anything to do with that. If we're talking about what you're speaking on, that has more to do with social media companies and how cynical their algorithms are in order to try to push engagement. So I think that's it. The next one is Big Papa, who says, what do you think happens if Deshaun doesn't work out? Do they try to trade for another QB, try to go for a top 5 QB? I'm very high on everything so far, but for whatever reason, if Watson doesn't work out, what's next? Keep up the amazing work. Yeah, so if Watson doesn't work out, right, let's say this year happens, he gets injured again, or he doesn't play that well. Well, I think what happened is that they will start to put the things in motion to do a soft reboot, which means they'll run out 2026 with Deshaun Watson. They'll play out that contract. They might not restructure. They might add a dummy year to it, but they'll play out the contract and he'll start in 2026 and they'll see what they do. They'll probably still be a decent team in 2026, but they're not going to go crazy in free agency. They're not going to try to put everything around it. They're not going to sacrifice flexibility in order to make the roster better. So they'll go out, they'll have 2026, they'll see what it is. If he stays healthy, plays well, cool. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But also after this year, after 2025, after 2026, you do have first round picks. So I wouldn't be surprised in one of those 2 drafts, if Deshaun Watson is not working out, that the Browns do go after a quarterback in the first round and put that guy behind Deshaun Watson for a couple of years. Then come 2027, you have that guy play quarterback. You see what you have in that quarterback. And in 2028, if that dude's legit, we back to building up, spending a bunch of money again. We're gonna try to get that Super Bowl window in 2028. So you're looking at basically, if Deshaun Watson doesn't work out, you'll have 2 years of soft rebuilding. If it does work out, there's a possibility that you're probably going to have 1 year of soft rebuilding around Deshaun Watson while you try to kind of restructure some other things around him. But yeah, like if it doesn't work out, you'll probably just be all right for 2026. And then 2027, you'll see what that quarterback has. But, I think it's along those lines. I don't think it's as difficult of a thing as people are making it out to be. Like, yeah, the Browns will be in cap trouble in 2026 or 27 if Deshaun Watson does not work out, or at least they won't have the most cap space. But if you've made the determination that Deshaun Watson is not going to be a quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with, then, and you're transitioning away from him, then why does your cap space matter at that point? Like, you're clearly reloading for a new window. And then by the time you get to 2027, 28, you'll be good. The cap will be at like $350 million. You'll be young. You can draft players again, and you'll be fine. So, again, people love to make a mountain out of a molehill with what the Browns situation could be if Deshaun Watson doesn't work out. It's never been something that could destroy your franchise, and it's not poised to be anything that could destroy your franchise if it doesn't work out. Browns IE says, couple of questions here. Is there a different mode of player to defend kickoffs now? Less downfield, more block shedding? And what do you think of more teams using UFL like the minor leagues? I don't think that model helps anybody, to be honest with you. Now, I think there is a hybrid model that could work, like maybe for certain positions, like if you have kickers and punters that you want to develop, I think it would make sense for an NFL team to allow them to play for a UFL squad during the spring and then come kick for them in the fall, because there's not a lot of wear and tear to the body there. But when we're talking about quarterbacks, running backs, offensive linemen, wide receiver, it does not make any sense to have them taking snaps in a spring league, potentially getting injured, just to get more experience when you feel like they can get experience on your practice squad or in the preseason much closer to your regular season and much safer. So I don't think that is going to happen in the way that it does. Like for specialists, it makes sense. For low impact positions like special teams, it makes sense. But I don't think it makes much sense for players who are going to get hit, including quarterbacks. So I don't think that that's going to be something that works. I think it's something we always default to, but the more I think about it, the less I think it makes any sense. But thank you for the questions. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.